No, you literally can't because there's no feminism in nature. So you say, so if you say feminism is the true something, you're like, okay, where in nature is feminism? Prove like so men and women aren't equal. Men and women have been dependent on men for countless generations. Men have taken care of women and it's worked. Men and women get together, they form families, everything's worked fine. So you want to disrupt this system that's worked for endless generations and that you see all throughout nature based on what? What is your justification that this idea you have of male and female equality is the true nature, and that everything that every all these animals do and that humans have done for thousands of years is somehow not nature? What is your proof? What is your argument?
Well, I don't think they could. I mean, the arguments are based on lies, so you can't really make an argument for it. Well, what I'm saying is that at least with Confucianism, you have an explicit thing like don't do this, like don't give women rights.
Well, but that's so. But that's the thing, though. Like the whole point of freedom and individualism is you you trust you want to trust people to well I mean like you could just read the Tao Te Ching, you'll see it's very endorsement of libertarianism and small government and leaving people alone. It's brilliant. And look, if a woman feels like she wants to wear the pants and she finds some guy that's a weak guy and wants to be the stay-at-home guy and they want to raise a family, that's fine. Like again, like everything is nature. Everything is nature expressing itself. So let people do what they feel compelled to do, as long as they are not interfering with nature or other people expressing what they want to do. You know, the whole like your rights end when they infringe on my rights. It's like that. Like you could express whatever you feel you want to, as long as it's not infringing on other people doing the same. So if you want to live in an equality family where you and your husband have the same rights and he treats you like this and that, go for it. But if you're like, oh, but I need to reform society based on what works for me, that's not the Tao. The Tao isn't you forcing. You don't force things. The Tao's like don't force things. That's like if you want to kind of that's one of the huge big messages in Taoism is don't try to force shit. Like you don't know better than the universe. So you just trust the universe and go with the universe. The universe is smarter than you.
So was
So just
Taoism
Yeah, I
the
see what you're
stop.
non-aggression
saying.
principle long before the non-aggression principle was a thing?
Well, it's not about not necessarily. Well, kind of. I mean, it is about non-aggression. It's not about like a principle per se. It's just about um, it's kind of like the why behind the why, because it's not like a hollow principle like based on the golden rule. Like you shouldn't aggress on people because you wouldn't like people to aggress against you. It actually is more of kind of giving it a religious overtone of saying like you aren't smart enough to know what's better for everyone. So shut the fuck up. Like don't try to force your will on people because you don't know better than them. You don't know better than the universe. So just start with yourself, and like, and if you're doing something good, then people will want to emulate you. You know, if something you're doing is working, then they're going to want to copy you. You don't need to force anything, because people always seek out what what benefits them and what makes their life better. So you be an example and you don't try to force anything on anybody, and then people will admire you and look up to you. But if you try to force things on people, even if you're right, they're going to resent you. And but if you create laws, you create criminals.
Yep,
By
the best society to live in function. Basically, everyone works in the gets works on a mutual benefit based on satisfying their own self interest.
right, so that's here. Let me show you my little chart. I posted it a while ago, but it's still
I
a
guess
work in
basically my
progress.
point is like, why can't the communists just run the same subversion program on this religion that they run on the one we have? Like,
Well,
how do you know what I mean?
Because they
well,
want
so
other people's resources.
right, but ultimately, I mean, their philosophy isn't congruent with the core beliefs at all. But of course, they could try. They could try to argue that even though equality isn't natural, and even though I'm trying to force things which are completely against Taoism, if you get enough people together, they could always declare that this is the true Tao. You know, like how the left has subverted liberal. Like liberal used to be a libertarian thing, and they subverted it. So they could always like subvert some type of slave morality Taoism and call it something and say that whatever. You know, you just tell them to go fuck themselves, and you don't, whatever.
I'd say the shift in the liberal thinking was more like the trichotomy rotating 120 degrees.
Well, no, but liberals were about liberty. Now, a liberal, at least in America, liberals are just leftists. They're not. They don't give a shit about liberty. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of the word liberal. But that's because they co-opted the language. So the left is always appropriating words and changing words to try to repackage communism with a different label. That's like their modus operandi. Now, what's to stop communism from appropriating Taoism, packaging it, and then trying to sell it? Nothing. In fact, they're guaranteed to do that. You just tell them to go fuck themselves. It's like they're gonna try it anyway. So what? Like, you look at all the people trying to repackage MGTOW as dating coach, self improvement, or trying to package MGTOW as incel rage and anti woman. Like people are like all these groups are coming after trying to repackage MGTOW, make it them. And so, how do you deal with that? Can you stop the PUAs from trying to subvert MGTOW? Can you stop the incels from trying to subvert MGTOW? Can you stop the alt-right from trying to subvert MGTOW? No, you can't. You can't stop them from trying. You just tell them to fuck off. Now, there might be a few people who are deceived who yeah, I like hating women, so I'm going to join the incels because MGTOW is not the true MGTOW. Incel is the true MGTOW. That's fine. There's going to be a few people, whatever, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. Like, let them try. They're going to eventually burn themselves out. Like, you don't even have to do anything. Like, should we address the PUAs who are trying to infiltrate MGTOW to try to turn MGTOW into PUA, or the incels trying to infiltrate MGTOW and turn MGTOW into incel bullshit? No, you don't need to. You just keep doing what you're doing, and people are going to see like, oh, these people are full of shit. Some people might run off and do their thing, but whatever. But yeah, and it's not like necessarily, and being a Taoist doesn't necessarily mean you're a pacifist. It means you're like, it's natural to defend yourself, and if someone's trying to kill you, you're gonna kill them right back. I mean, like animals kill each other all the time. That's nature. So you fuck with me, I'm gonna fucking kill you. That's nature. You know. So yeah, it's cool shit, man.
You keep killing them until they stop.
Yeah, like look, I didn't bring this fight. You brought this fight.
All these religions and ideologies and methodologies all seem like post-rationalizations more than anything, the way I see it.
Well, religion itself is a post-rationalization. Basically, humans, it's just human nature. Humans don't like living in a world with things they can't control or explain. So let's say you're a caveman and you see that a plague broke out and killed a bunch of people, and this didn't happen before. You have no explanation for it. What could it be? Well, clearly the gods are mad at you, and if you sacrifice an animal and say a prayer, then the plague won't come back. Now, none of that's true. The plague wasn't the fault of some anger of the gods. It was basically just viruses mutate, and sometimes pandemics break out and wipe people out, and then they go away. So, but you have no idea of knowing that. So, in order to help yourself feel like you have some kind of control, you contrive rituals and religions to give yourself the illusion of control in a world of chaos and unpredictability. There's a famous 1940s experiment with a bird where they made the bird superstitious by giving it a button that was random. So sometimes when the bird hit the button, food came out. Sometimes when the bird hit the button, nothing happened. That's all it did. All the button did was it was a random button that sometimes made food happen and sometimes didn't. And they tested it on different birds, and every bird came up with a different ritual that it would do to try to make the button work. Some birds would do a dance, some birds would cock their head to the side because the bird would do something, hit the button, and the food would come out. It was random, that the bird didn't know that. But the bird associated the thing it did to making the food come out, so it would start doing the thing. And as the experiment went on, the bird's rituals became more and more elaborate because the bird was trying to make sense of this it was just a random button. There was nothing to make sense of. It was a random button. Just hit the button again. That was the solution. Just keep hitting the button until food comes out. But the bird didn't know that. So it created like these rituals, and that's how religion happens. It is literally a post hoc rationalization. However, your people need that. It's human nature to want answers for things for which answers cannot be found. Like, what happens after we die? Where did we all come from? There's literally no way for us to answer those questions definitively. So people are going to come up with something. So if you understand that religion is effectively inevitable because of human nature and the desire for closure and answers, especially if they want the illusion of control in an unpredictable world. So fine, okay, let's have religion. But can we at least have a religion that promotes the values that we want in our society? Instead of a religion that teaches dependence, conformity, and submission, maybe we should have a religion that preaches tolerance and freedom and individualism. Because then, if you have a religion that teaches freedom and individualism, and a society that teaches freedom and individualism, they're working together. But like the founding fathers, they were deists. They didn't want Christianity to be the bedrock of the country, because then that would have led to monarchy. So they tried to have a separate church and state, but that didn't work because progressives eventually took over. But it kind of was inevitable because they created a country, a political system based on freedom and individualism, but the religion of the society taught submission, dependence, and conformity. So one of them was going to win. So eventually the Christians realized, wait a minute, if we sweep God under the carpet, we can take over the government. And so they created progressivism. So if you're going to just accept that religion's inevitable, but make a religion that promotes your values, that's the best you can do. Is it true? Is there an intelligence behind all things known as the Tao that controls all the laws of nature and physics and reality? Fuck, I don't know. Maybe.
I guess we'll find out
Why
with
not?
Terminator waifus, right?
Well, the thing is, here's the beautiful thing, though. The Tao doesn't judge. So it's like, even if it's true or not true, it doesn't really change anything. So it's just like, if it, whatever, who cares? It's a way of understanding things, and like we have to understand that nature is a thing. Nature and existence and the laws of physics and math and all these things we understand to be objective, they do exist. So if you wanted to give all these things a name, you give it a name. Why not just call it the Tao or God? Like, does it matter what you call it? And also, God is not an anthropomorphic bearded man, sitting on a cloud. The Tao is unknowable and undescribable. So, like, that's a lot more closer to, like, a metaphysical concept of nature than the westernized, anthropomorphic idea of a bearded dude in the clouds.
That's
so,
been, yeah, I was just saying that's been my thought also, is that you just cannot personify such a thing, especially, like, if let's assume God exists and he's, like, omnipotent and omnipresent. I mean, why does he have to be some old, long-bearded white guy who may be going bald or whatever?
I think they stole that from Zeus. Again, Christianity only became prominent because of the Roman Empire. So you had Roman religion, which had Jupiter or Zeus, and then, of course, then God became the religion, or Christianity became the religion. But so you had Jesus. Everyone kind of had an idea of what Jesus looked like. But what does God look like? Well, we have all these statues of Zeus everywhere. Why don't we just take the image of Zeus and make that God the Father?
And you know
I'm
what?
pretty sure that's exactly all it was. Is they just had this idea of Zeus in their head already, and Zeus became God the Father.
And you know what? I believe that 100%. That would have been my thought exactly if because I'd actually never thought of it that way, but yeah, that makes 100% sense because when
Yeah. So
Constantine came to power, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, what if God the Father is just like the Tao? You know, what if
Yeah.
that like God the Father is just he's the everything behind everything? No, like you could give it a Christian spin if you want, whatever. It would be better than the Romanized version of Christianity. Like, I don't think Christianity is really good. I think because it was founded during the slavery under the Romans, that is just too heavily steeped in slave morality. But like, if you have to have a concept of Jesus and Christianity, you know, I'd rather like be like Spinoza and take a page from Taoism. I don't think he even meant to. I don't think he was even familiar with Taoism. But he conceptualized God as just the universe and nature and everything like that. And so if you throw out the anthropomorphic Zeus-like figure of God and kind of recontextualize God as the way Spinoza did, you can come up with a more compatible version of Christianity. I still think it's a little bit too much herd morality for my taste, but if it works for you, and again, it makes you a better person, and you're not infringing on people's rights and trying to force your bullshit, then whatever. Whatever.
I personally find silicon to be my religious object. You know what I mean?
Like the computer chips or the sex doll material.
Hey, why not both?
Well, silicone is. I don't think silicone is made from silicon, is it?
Well,
Is it a
okay, you get my
compound?
point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's. Anyway, I'm very impressed with Taoism. I never really looked into Eastern religion. I kind of looked at Buddhism, and I like Buddhism, but then I didn't like the Hinduist stuff, and I didn't like the whole like denigration of desire. I mean, there's a way of looking at it where you can kind of contextualize it to mean something else, but you're kind of fighting against the obvious, intuitive way of looking at it. Like you can, it's like when you have a religion that has like a problematic teaching, and you have to like come up with some weird convoluted way to explain it away. When maybe just admitting, hey, maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know. The thing about Taoism is it's so simple. Like the Tao Te Ching is you can read it in an hour. And there's nothing, there's literally, like I read the Tao Te Ching, and I'm like, there's literally nothing in here I disagree with. It's not anti-science. It doesn't make any proclamations about anything. It's basically almost like a book of wisdom, and it's like legit wisdom. It's like, yeah, this guy fucking gets it. And the fact that it's so old, it's like, wow, this guy was fucking
Well,
on point.
yeah, but the strength of it is also kind of the weak. That's kind of what I was trying to get at, is that it doesn't talk about science explicitly or like taking away women's rights explicitly, like other stuff